before he cast his ballot. Let's listen in.
It's too early to congratulate, but we are hearing it's record kind of numbers. Caroline, do you want to just tell them what you told me a little while ago?
Sure, yeah. Enthusiasm is very high. We're seeing our voters are turning out, especially in rural areas across the country, and we see Democrat areas are not turning out as great as our people. So your people are ready, and they're turning out for you, sir.
And we had a big lead to start off with. I hear it's really amazing. I get a call from the people in Texas, Dan Patrick and others. They say that they've never actually seen anything like
Trump survived two assassination attempts. Two assassination attempts.
We just wanted to come over and pay our respects. Our #1 best-selling author. Can you believe it? We have a big day. We'll be watching, and it'll be very interesting. I hope they come up with a result tonight. They say areas that were winning big with it for 2 days. It's just a crazy thing. And I'm really saying this.
I don't know it's about assassination.
They should do paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and be done. 1 day, same day. And by 10 o'clock, everybody would be. And
I think that's how you spell attempts.
For 8% of the cost, it would cost 8%. Think of that. For 8%, you get a better product. But we'll have to look at it.
This is the heartbeat of your organization, sir.
This is a great, well, you're the heartbeat too, aren't you? What about Alex? How's Alex? Are you surprised?
We're doing great, sir. You built the greatest political movement in history, and everybody here has been working super hard for you. And you're our inspiration, and we're going to bring this up today.
Very nice. Thank you. It's very nice. And I hear the social media has been just unbelievable.
You make it easy for us. You give us a lot of
Joe
content.
Rogan has been just he's a great guy, and that was a big thing. And he did that. He just doesn't do that. And that he did that, I think it meant a lot. So all over the country, I hear it's all red, and we don't need that. You know, we went in with a very big lead, so we just had to sort of keep it. But I hear it's beyond that, and it's a movement. There's never been a movement like this, and we're going to turn our country around. We're going to not let people that murder people come into our country. We're not going to let drug dealers come into our country, terrorists come into our country.
Yep.
Little things like that, people are not going to stand them, and that's why we're doing well. But you know what? We still have a time to go, so let's make sure that we have this under control. And some of you I'm going to see tonight, I would imagine. I hope all of you. So I'll be seeing you tonight, and it'll be great. The First Lady's coming with us, and she's really impressed by the job you've done. Would you like to say something?
A great job. Thank you so much for all your support, and it was hard work. I know it's hours to hours, and I know how hard my husband is working non-stop. So thank you for all your support. Great job.
Thank you. Yesterday and the day before, you actually reminds the day before too, we did a lot of rallies, and they're big ones. We did full rallies as opposed to, so we got in about 5 o'clock in the morning. We left Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be great, especially since we killed the biggest factory that ever auto factory that I think anywhere at any time, which would have, destroyed them. And we did that without being president. So that was a big thing. But I think Michigan's going to be good. They're all looking really good. Susie, I can't think of anything that weaknesses. What do you think of Susie? Would you say good? Well, we just wanted to come over and pay our respects. This is really great. And we're going to see you tonight, and hopefully they'll be able to get these expensive computers going. The reason you use computers is to make time so that it's like fast. You don't use them so that you have to come up with an answer 3 days later. And that's a little scary when they say, what are they doing? You use a computer because it calculates quickly. And you use paper because because you save cost. But the paper turns out to be much quicker than the computer. There's something wrong with that, so we don't like that. But there are a lot of things that are happening in our country that have to be changed, and we'll do it, and we'll do what's
There
right
is a
for the
lot
country.
wrong with this country right now. There is a
Let's
lot.
see if we can close it out. But it would be. I just asked about it. Wouldn't it be nice if after spending billions of dollars that they could have a computer give an answer by like 10 o'clock in the evening? Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't really make sense. It's crazy. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Have a good day. And you're going to be watching, and they're going to be watching. Make sure there's no cheating, right? There's going to be no cheating. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I like that.
All right, so that was former President Trump speaking from his campaign headquarters after he voted in Palm Beach, Florida. I did want to share you the very latest information. We do understand that he is going to be watching the election results from West
Someone in their
Palm Beach,
chat said
at his
cheating.
club in Mar-a-Lago.
That's
And we also know
crazy.
that Vice President Harris, she will be in Washington, D.C. at Howard University to watch those election results come in. We do have a number of cameras fanned out across the United States in some polling locations, and I did want to go through those right now for you. Take a look at this. This is a live look from Philadelphia. As you can see that people are already underway as they are going to be counting those ballots right there. So that is a live look from Philadelphia. I also wanted to share this with you. This is a live look out of West Bloomfield, Michigan. As you can see, this is where folks are going to be casting their ballot if they haven't already done so. So I did want to share that with you. Today, of course, Election Day. A lot of people voting early, a lot of people deciding to instead cast their ballot on Election Day. This takes us out to Phoenix, Arizona. That's a live look right there from our camera there in Phoenix, Arizona. Arizona being one of the 7 swing states, Philadelphia and Michigan also among those. And we continue our live look. This is a live look from California right here. And I did want to share that with you as we do change camera angles. You can see folks already underway right there, making sure that every ballot is counted. This, meanwhile, this takes us out to, I'm reading this. This actually is California right here, or perhaps it is Madison, Wisconsin. We have so many cameras and they change at a moment's notice. But again, just to give you almost a round robin, as we do have a number of cameras at polling locations around the United States. I did also want to bring in David Washington, who is the CEO of J.N. Washington's political firm, to talk more about this. David, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. Okay, so today is Election Day. All eyes, of course, are on the presidential election, but there are also a number of other notable races and initiatives on the ballot. As we are awaiting these election results, let's first talk about the presidential election. What are you keeping a very close eye on? Particular states, particular timelines, particular potential issues? As a political analyst, what is first and foremost on your mind right now?
Nationally, there are 2 states that I am keeping my eye on. That's Wisconsin and foremost Pennsylvania.
Okay, so Pennsylvania, and we were listening to former President Trump and Vice President Harris as they made really just their last call, so to speak, yesterday in the swing state of Pennsylvania, both saying that Pennsylvania is the state to win if they want to be the next president of the United States. How accurate is that assessment?
That's very accurate for several reasons. The main reason is that there was decent turnout for vote by mail and early voting. However, when you look at other states that are just as important as Pennsylvania, the battleground states, you'll see that the rate of involvement turnout for Pennsylvania in vote by mail and early voting is much lower than, say, Georgia, for instance. And therefore, there's so many votes out there on both sides for Pennsylvania. And you could say the same for Wisconsin, too.
So why is that? Is it because folks in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, were undecided?
I would think it's a combination of several things. The undecideds, sure, that's part of the equation. Also, there's it's tradition to come out on election day and vote. And so many people aren't too trustworthy about the election system. And so they want to make sure that they go in and they vote. And with Pennsylvania, especially Pennsylvania, getting barraged with so much campaign and political material, it's it's going to be difficult for people to just look through the haze, tune out the noise, and decide what's best for their families and their kitchen table issues.
And both candidates, both former President Trump and Vice President Harris, really focused in on different key issues. Trump focusing on the economy, focusing on immigration. Harris focusing on reproductive freedom, using that as part of her platform. I want to ask you this because the latest polls have come out and it really seems neck and neck. And I wanted to ask you, as a political analyst, how accurate are these polls in terms of predicting the outcome?
Well, I always go back to 2016 when the polls predicted a landslide in some of them for Secretary Hillary Clinton. I'm not a big fan of polls. There are different methods of polling people, different methodology. Sometimes it's difficult in getting a broad voter base of opinions. And so, therefore, I'm not a big fan of them. Polls come and go. I always say to my clients and to those who are interested, the one poll that is important is the one on election day when people actually vote. So I would just, for voters who have not voted yet, look at the kitchen table issues and make the decision that's best for you.
And truly, the election day results are really the only thing that really matters in the long run. I also wanted to ask you this, David, because there's been a lot of discussion about secret voting, voting without telling anyone who exactly you're voting for, and perhaps not even sharing that information with your loved ones. When we take a look at this particular presidential election, it has been contentious. It has been very partisan. Does that factor in at all, do you think, when it comes to that secret vote?
It does. And if there's one thing that is treasured, valued by Americans, is the right to vote, the privilege to express who will represent your issues in whatever election there is. And so when people are questioned about who they're going to vote for, or you see ads about keeping your vote secret from your spouse, that hits a certain way. I'm uncomfortable with that. What happens in a couple's life is between them. I get that. Traditionally, in my past history, there's always a conversation with my parents or with my ex-wife about who we're going to vote for, and so whether or not I follow through with that vote, that's up to me. I've had people ask me, who am I going to vote for? I've had strangers reach out to me and say, hey, you must be a Republican, or hey, you must be a Democrat. You're going to vote this way or another. Actually, no one really knows unless I tell them. And right now, that's how it should be.
Is there anything else? This is going to be a long night. This is going to be possibly a long week. You've been in politics a long time. As you're taking a look at this particular election, do you anticipate, and we've been asking even our viewers, do you think that we are going to have those results tonight, or perhaps tomorrow, or perhaps the following day? What does that timeline look to you?
Well, Stephanie, I'm not the best to answer this. I'm more of a cynic. I'm thinking we won't have a definitive answer until maybe a week or so from now, depending on, of course, how things turn out. But definitely not tonight. There's so many votes out there that are counted differently from one state to another. California votes much later than most of America because they're on the West Coast. There's thousands and thousands of vote by mail ballots that need to be opened and counted. So we won't have specific numbers. We can make assumptions. However, I believe tomorrow at the earliest, we'll have an indication if we have a new president or not.
And taking a look at that, and you're anticipating that we likely won't know until possibly tomorrow at the earliest. You also mentioned Pennsylvania, you mentioned Wisconsin. Are those the two states you think will make it or break it? Or could there also be some other states that you're keeping a very close eye on the end result?
Barring any challenges or things that may go wrong or assume to go wrong, I'm still looking at Wisconsin and specifically Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania has so many votes out there. And I'm looking at the data almost hourly and determining, okay, maybe I should be looking at another state or whatever. But Pennsylvania continues to come up. And so I'm looking at Pennsylvania and Wisconsin as a close second as being of concern and watching those numbers as they come out today and tomorrow.
David, before we let you go, obviously we don't know yet. People are still voting at the polls right now, and tens of millions of Americans are making their opinion known, by ballot. Is there anything else, any other races? Because again, we keep focusing on the presidential election, but there are a number of other notable races. When it comes to Congress, when it comes to gubernatorial races, when it comes to ballot initiatives, anything else specifically that you're keeping a close eye on?
Of course, we're looking at the reproductive rights ballots across the nation. There are a handful of states like Florida that has that on its ballot, Amendment 4. Also, we have significant races in the Senate, Ohio, Montana, that could change the direction of the Senate, who's in control of the Senate. So there, of course, are House races that, will determine whether or not there's a thin majority for the Democrats or the Republicans. However, I always go back to local politics. Local politics, your local elected officials matter so much in our daily lives that it's very important to pay attention to those elections and to get even more granular. Those judicial races are very important because in those races, you're looking at your future judges on your state Supreme Courts, your circuit courts, your appellate courts, and perhaps the United States Supreme Court.
All right, David, we are going to let you go. We know you have a busy day ahead of you. We're going to be speaking with you again tomorrow as we know a little bit more, at least, in terms of where all of these races are headed. So we thank you for taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. And as David was mentioning, he is keeping a very close eye specifically on the swing state of Pennsylvania and also of Wisconsin. But just to give you an idea, this is a map of all 7 swing states that really could make a difference. Pennsylvania, as we've heard, could be the make it or break it state, 19 electoral votes. So the most amount of electoral votes that a state has here in the swing states, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. And we did want to share that with you right there. Speaking of swing states, though, I did want to share this live look with you. This is a live look out of the state of Georgia, where we are expecting the Secretary of State to give another update when it comes to election day, when it comes to election integrity and the voting process right there. We do see that the microphones are in place. No one has, as of yet, walked up to the podium. But as soon as that happens, that's what we do here on Live Now from Fox. We bring you these events in real time without a filter, with no editing, and we will do so as soon as we see folks walking up right there. As we do await for this to happen, once again, I did want to share just some of the live cameras that we have fanned out across the United States. This is a look right here from El Segundo, California. And of course, they are a number of hours, 3 hours behind the East Coast. And so as we were talking with David, it is going to take some time for the polls to close and for the votes to be counted. And so that is going to happen, of course, as those polls do close across the locations. And the timing of that varies from state to state right there, but we did want to share that with you. This is a live look from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as we're going to pan over right here now, and you can see a large number of people counting some of those ballots. Of course, election integrity continues to be a major topic of discussion. Many election offices, supervisor of election offices and states keeping a very close eye to make sure that every ballot is properly counted. This is a live look right here from Madison, Wisconsin, one of those key swing states, and you can see folks right there with their ballots in hand as they are having them scanned to make sure that they're counted. All right, we're going to step away for a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Time right now is 2:18 Eastern, 11:18 Pacific. On this all-important election day, we have you covered from coast to coast and everywhere in between. As these live events happen, we will bring that to you. Much more to come after the break. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. We continue to follow this live look right here out of the state of Georgia as we are expecting the Secretary of State to give another Election Day update. We've been taking a look at this podium right here for just about half an hour or so. No one as of yet has walked up to give that update. But as soon as that happens, we will bring that to you. And in fact, we can actually see the camera right now panning And so I'm just going to wait on this just for a little bit as we do see movement. I'm not really sure if the photographer is just making sure that this live look is framed up properly. I don't see anyone walking up. Now, we have been hearing from time to time from Georgia officials, and so we are expecting to hear from Secretary of State Raffensperger to give that update right now, possibly some other officials as well. It doesn't look like anyone is actually stepping up to the podium. So as we do await this live event, just a short time ago, out of Arizona, another swing state, Maricopa County election officials gave their update there, as this county is one of the counties that could also make or break this election. And so I did want to play the very latest out for you right now as we do await this live event. Of course, once this does happen, we will pivot to that. In the meantime, we're going to head to Maricopa County, Arizona, and listen in.
Happy Election Day from the Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center. We're happy to be here. We're hoping to provide information from the activities so far this morning. My name is Jennifer Lewer. I'm a Deputy Elections Director. With me today is Supervisor Bill Gates, and I'm going to go ahead and let him take the beginning of this press conference. He will have comments, and then we will do our question and answer. There are quite a few members of the media here. Our technology isn't as slick it has been in the past press conferences, but we'll do our best to repeat the questions as we get them for those of you who are watching live online. And now, Supervisor Bill Gates.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Want to thank everyone for coming out here. Really Chamber of Commerce weather day today. We've got 74 degrees for our high temperatures, so really happy to see everyone out here. Things are going very well right now out there at our 246 vote centers across Maricopa County. Right now, the average wait time is about 2 minutes, so very, very short lines out there, so that's great. We've already had over 93,000 people check in to vote this morning, so lots of people out there, but certainly what we were anticipating. At the most, we have just a small handful of our vote centers that have 30-minute waits, but like I said, the average wait is just 2 minutes long. As we've been suggesting to people throughout this period of voting, make a plan if you haven't voted yet. We anticipate the heaviest time in the remainder of the day is going to be from 4 to 7 p.m. So before you go out to vote at the vote centers, go on to our website, go on to locations.maricopa.vote. There you can check out all of the vote centers and the current wait times, so you can go to the most convenient vote center and go ahead and vote and then go on with your day. We are grateful for everyone who is working hard here in the tabulation center. We have people working 16, 18-hour days. This is a 24/7 operation, and I really appreciate, and I know the Board of Supervisors and the recorder appreciate all of their hard work. Just one thing to keep in mind, if you get into line at 7 p.m., you will have the opportunity to vote. No matter how long that line is, stay in line and go ahead and vote. As far as any questions about what's going on with the election, if you have concerns about things that you might be reading on social media and elsewhere, please go to our website, justthefacts.vote, where you can get the most up-to-date and you can get accurate information. The first results will be reported this evening around 8 p.m., and we anticipate we'll have approximately 1.2 million ballots that will be reported at 8 p.m. And then as the evening goes on and as we go into the early morning hours of Wednesday, we'll be reporting the results of people who are going to the vote centers and voting in person today. We anticipate that those numbers that we report around 8 p.m., that'll be about 70 to 75% of all of the early ballots have been cast. We've had a lot of excitement for this election, a lot of participation both in early voting, and of course that is continuing on today. So with that, be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And we're going to actually utilize spokesperson Fields to help point people out for their questions, because we are. Yes, Nicole.
I was wondering, are you all seeing the misinformation circulating that some vote centers are shut down, and can you address that? How many shut down?
Yes, absolutely. No, appreciate that question. There have been no vote centers that have been shut down. We are out there going ahead and servicing the printers as we normally would if there are issues, where people, where we need to update the toner. But there have been no vote centers that have been shut down. Things are moving very smoothly out there today.
So the question was to sort by wait times. The way the back end of this information works on the website is if you put an address in, it will give you the shortest wait times within that area. We do not have a sort that will actually sort everything in the valley, because the website's really designed for that voter who gets on and they're at a certain location and they want to see the shortest wait times in the location that they are at.
Yeah, so like I said, the printers have been operating very well. The board, we invested $9 million in getting new printers, and those are running very well. We're not running into, at this point, any of the tabulation challenges that we saw in 2022. And with regard to some of the ones that have a little bit longer lines, again, we're talking like 30 minutes, 32 minutes. I know Surprise, City Center, that one is very popular. Location, I believe Mesa Community College, Indian Bend. These are some of the ones that, frankly, in early voting, we've seen with some of the longer wait times too. But again, we told people, we talked about this yesterday, we've been talking about this, lines will occur, but we're very pleased with what we're seeing right now. But something that's important for people that really want to avoid the lines, your slowest time left in the day now is going to be mid-afternoon. So go out in the mid-afternoon, you're going to be likely to have the shortest lines. And again, if you can't go and vote until after work, which I absolutely understand, for those folks, probably a good idea to go on to locations.maricopa.vote to see where the shortest lines are, and then go there and get in line by 7 p.m. and you will have the opportunity to vote today.
Behind the camera over here.
Yes, in the black. Done the investment, or we have the sheriff speak?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, from our perspective, and happy to see if the sheriff has anything to add, we're very proud to have made the investments in security here at this facility and elsewhere. We have invested millions of dollars in that to make sure that the workers who are here today feel safe, and things have been very calm, but happy to, if the sheriff wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, just real quick, want to thank all the public safety partnership out there. Every agency is dialed up for this. We've done a lot of planning prior to this, and we have several emergency operations centers, communications, cross-line, all the way from McTech to Phoenix to our ACTIC and even the sheriff's office. So those communication lines are continuing with anything that comes up. At this point in time, we've had no credible issues relative to public safety, and we will continue to monitor and assess and have those resources deployed throughout Maricopa County until those polling centers close, and then obviously things will start to wind down over at the tabulation center.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the sheriff. I want to thank all law enforcement here in Maricopa County, as well as our federal partners who have just been amazing. County attorney, U.S. attorney, across the board. It's a partnership that we have here in Maricopa County that I think is really second to none. So again, Sheriff, thank you so much.
We got folks in the back that we don't want to miss out on. I don't know if they can be seen. Jillian? So the question is about the shutdown of our vote centers. Our vote centers, obviously, they close at 7. If voters are in line, they are allowed to stay in line, they are allowed to vote. Maricopa County is an expansive county. We are larger, I think, than 7 states in the United States. So as those vote centers close down, they pack up their materials. It's going to take time for them to bring those materials back to the tabulation center. We are expecting to be here most of the night as those centers break down and bring back that information. I don't know that.
All right, so we were listening to officials there in Maricopa County, Arizona, giving an update for the election day voting. We are going to step away for a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox. We've just gotten word that a briefing by Georgia Secretary of State may get underway momentarily. So we're going to step away for that 2-minute break, continuing to monitor that live stream. I'm Stephanie Quinu. You're watching Live Now from Fox on this election day. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu, and the Georgia Secretary of State just stepped up to the podium. We're going to pivot to that and listen in live.
That'd be over 1.1 million, which gets us to probably right now 5,150,000. Now we don't know if that trend will continue. We don't know if it'll actually come up a little bit. People get off work today. But that's really what the big news should be. Now I'm not telling you what to print or write. That's your job. But I think that's pretty darn awesome. Then we have a few things that happen you just can't, explain. And one of them, you cut in the weeds, but in Peach County this morning, it was a little cold down there. So someone plugged in the space heater that was also serving the county EMS for the election management system. And so it fried that. So it was replaced this morning. But those are the kind of things you just kind of don't expect. But very minor issue. And another really minor issue that so far, 2 precincts in Cobb, had a late opening for about 30 minutes each, so they'll extend those. But what's really interesting is that today a lot of people call our call center. So far, we've had 1,374 calls on our call center, and they were answered an average of 16 seconds, and the oldest was about 42 seconds. So really responsive, getting back to people, answering their questions. What do they do? Where do they go? Things like that. And then we actually even gotten some great feedback. Already 40 emails. Instead of being dog cussed, 40 emails telling us they had a great experience. We want everyone in Georgia to know that I've led on making sure that we lead the nation on having fast, secure, and accurate elections. And when you say fast, so much of that is about the voter experience, the customer, which is the voter today. And we're just really grateful we're getting feedback, but we're so grateful that we're having a check-in time right now under a minute. And we're having line time 2 to 3 minutes. So in 4 minutes or less, average, people are voting in Georgia. And we think that's good news too. So we have a lot to be proud of, and that's what you all have to be proud of, that you live in a great state. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about that Russian hoax and that bomb scare. And I just want to make sure everyone understands this, that Georgia's not going to be intimidated. The Russia has just decided they picked on the wrong Georgia. They need to pick on the other one in the Black Sea, because we're not going to be intimidated. But we're just excited about where we are right now. I didn't know if anyone had any questions.
You talked about some precincts in Cobb County that'll be held open late. Are you aware of others? And also Cobb County said equipment issues were the reason for it. I don't know what equipment issues those are. Do you know?
No, it wasn't issues. It was just little things. Sometimes people forget keys. Sometimes they don't bring the power cord or connection, things like that. But it's just minor issues. But it's just 2 in Cobb. And there's a few other precincts where they had some of those bomb, the calls for the bomb scares. Sometimes most of the precincts, they just kept on voting. But in a few areas, they just paused while they did a check. And so like a 30-minute, 40-minute kind of wait for there. Not very many. So I think we're right now looking at less than a dozen across the entire state, out of 2,325, I believe it is. So it's, but it's just one of those inconveniences. But, I've said my piece. Obviously, you can see I'm pro-Georgia.
Good. And that Peach County issue, will that cause any delays or does it affect voters at all?
No, not at all. Didn't affect them at all.
Looks like you have large numbers voting early. These day of numbers are going to be a lot smaller. Do you have an idea, with those early votes, we're going to get a lot of numbers really soon. Talk about that and how we're going to see a lot of the results in this election you're hoping pretty early.
Absolutely. With SB 189 that we just passed this session, all the early votes that we have for the early voting in person and all the absentees that have come in early and have been accepted, all that has to be uploaded 1 hour after the polls close. And you think about that, that's probably 65% of the total votes, maybe even 70%. That's going to be uploaded. Everyone in Georgia is going to see that. In fact, everyone in the country can see that. So you get a good idea of where this race is going, but I think that's going to build trust in people, confidence, and then kind of see how their team's doing. But then the other balance that's happening today, that's going to come in with continuous feedbacks and uploads from the counties. So we'll be seeing that, and it won't just be a big number here and a big number there. It's going to happen throughout the night. And like I said, we have this all done before the night is out.
What are the most common questions, complaints that are coming into the call center today?
Really just location. What about this? How do I, where do I find, like my voter page, mvp.sos.ga. You can find out where you're supposed to vote, and then just make sure that you go to the right location. Yes?
A colleague of mine heard that 2 polling sites in Gwinnett County might have been evacuated because of a bomb threat.
Yeah.
Is that true? And is it part of the Russia?
It's part of the Russian hoax. Yes.
So do you have a total number of polling places that have been affected by this?
By the Russian hoax? Yeah, I could add it up and we'll get that out to you.
Okay. Will those Gwinnett County polling places stay open late?
Yeah, whenever we have a delay, even if it's like at 7 a.m. we don't start, but whenever you have a delay, an interruption like that, then it's extended by the time of the interruption, and that's just standard, procedure.
I know you talked about the Russian interference, the don't mess with Georgia. When it comes to that message that you have for people tonight, as we continue to see some of these hoaxes and non-credible threats come in, what's that message?
Well, I would tell everyone, just check with our office. We have a social media presence, and we're going to shoot you straight, give you the facts, and we get it out there as quick as we can. because we understand how polarized America is, and we know how sometimes people want to take advantage of that, and a lot of that is foreign state actors that don't have our best, outcome in their hearts. They want to see us, mess with each other and not get along with each other. But at the end of the day, we are the United States of America. Never lose sight of that. Thank you so much. Talk to you in an hour.
Thank you, Secretary.
Or two.
So that was Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger giving an Election Day update. You're taking a live look now of the Atlanta skyline on this Election Day. And you were actually hearing from the Secretary of State talking about some of these bomb threats. And I did want to share the very latest with you. The FBI saying these bomb threats to several states came from Russian email domains, and they have deemed them non-credible. Now, FBI did not identify the states in question, but the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, we actually just heard him address that very issue just moments ago, saying that the state's election process had, quote, snuffed out some bomb threats that he had said came from Russia. Now, officials in Fulton County, Georgia, said that they received multiple calls, and the threats forced a brief closure of 2 polling places. We also heard the Secretary of State addressing that as well. The bomb threats were among multiple disturbances that U.S. officials are tracking. A senior advisor to the director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency told reporters on a call that there were no national level security incidents that were threatening to disrupt the election on a wide scale. Officials continue to warn of what they say is an unprecedented level of foreign influence and disinformation that they expect to go beyond Election Day. So we were hearing from Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger saying that the state's election process had snuffed out some of those bomb threats, saying that they will not be intimidated by Russia, saying this is the United States of America. Of course, as soon as we hear any updates, we will bring them to you here on Live Now from Fox in real time. In the meantime, we are going to step away for a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Time right now is 2:43 Eastern, 11:43 Pacific. Much more to come after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Time right now is 2:43 Eastern, 11:45 Pacific. Just changing over right now. Coming up in 15 minutes, I'm going to be speaking with the co-chair of the Harris Walz campaign, asking them questions about how the mood is like with the Harris campaign, of course, as we do await those presidential elections to come down, and, you know, how much stock the campaign is putting in these polls. They have former President Trump up in a couple of states, Vice President Harris up in a number. So we're going to have that conversation coming up in just about 15 minutes. As we do await that, I did want to share this look with you. This is a map of the 7 key swing states. These are the 7 states that could make or break the presidential election. I do want to start off with Pennsylvania. That has the most electoral votes, 19 in all. And just to give you a bit of context, a bit of perspective, President Biden won Pennsylvania back in 2020. Former President Trump won it back in 2016. Georgia is next. Georgia has 16 electoral votes. Biden winning it in 2020, Trump winning it in 2016. North Carolina also has 16 electoral votes. Former President Trump won that in 2020 and also won that in 2016. Michigan has 15 electoral votes. President Biden winning that in 2020 and former President Trump winning that in 2016. Arizona, now shifting to the West Coast, has 11 electoral votes. President Biden winning that in 2020 and former President Trump winning that in 2016. Wisconsin has 10 electoral votes. Biden winning that in 2020 and Trump winning that in 2016. And finally, Nevada, 6 electoral votes up for grab. Biden winning that in 2020 and Hillary Clinton winning that in 2016. So these are the 7 key swing states. We've already been hearing from officials from Pennsylvania saying that it could extend until tomorrow before they finally finish tallying up the votes. They are taking this very seriously, as they should. Election integrity top of mind. So as we take a look at this map, I did also want to share some looks with you of these key swing states. You're taking a live look at vote counting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania right here. So this is a live look at what is happening in real time out of Philadelphia as they are counting those ballots right now. All right, the next live look takes us out to Michigan, another key swing state. This is in West Bloomfield, Michigan. This is a voting location, and you can see that all of those voting sites, those little boxes, do appear full. We have seen historic early voting already and tens of millions more voting on this traditional election day. I do want to share just a couple more live looks with you. This live look takes us out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so this is a location right there. This is where folks are counting ballots. You can see that this is cordoned off right here, sectioned, and election integrity really top of mind as we continue to hear from election officials from around the country describing some of these security measures that they are putting into place to make sure that ballots are properly counted one time and one time only. This next live look takes us out to California. California, not a swing state, but of course a lot of electoral votes up for grabs. As you can see, it is very busy right there right now. And finally, this last look that I do want to share takes us out to a polling location in Madison, Wisconsin, a voting location right there, as you can see, slow and steady. We are waiting on a number of other live events set to get underway, but after this 2-minute break, I'm going to share the very latest with you out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as we hear from election officials there. All of that coming up in the next 2 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. We have new information that I did want to pass along to you as we are expecting an update from Capitol Police. And I'm reading this just off of my computer right there. But police have arrested a man trying to enter the U.S. Capitol with a torch and a flare gun. They are expecting to give the very latest information about this in just the next 20-25 minutes or so. And of course, we're going to bring that to you as this update comes in. But just passing that information along to you as we are expecting an update momentarily from police, from Capitol Police, as they have arrested a man trying to enter the U.S. Capitol with a torch and a flare gun. We're going to keep a close eye on these live streams coming into our Live Now from Fox studio. As soon as we do get that and we see someone speaking at the podium, we of course will bring that to you live right here on air. In the meantime, I did want to head to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, of course, being one of those key 7 swing states. Election officials giving an update just a short time ago. So I did want to play that out for you right now. Let's listen in.
Of course, we have about 105,000 ballots, or sorry, it was 106,000 ballots as of this morning. I'm going to be checking that in a little bit and then putting it up on the website for you guys to see. So happy to take any questions. I think we were less than an hour of the start time, so I still feel pretty good. I mean, I've been telling everyone after midnight we would continue to receive ballots until 8 p.m. Every single ballot will be counted that's legitimate and qualifying. The post office let us know that they're going to continue to send ballots to us instead of just doing like 1 or 2 deliveries, so that's great. We're going to have a continuous flow. We're closing our drop boxes at 6 p.m. today, and so that gives us enough opportunity to process those ballots and get them out here instead of having like a large number at the end of the day. So I'm still anticipating 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning right now, but it's hard to tell. Can't read the tea leaves, but at the end of the day, I think probably later on in the evening, about 5, we'll have a better sense.
So you don't expect an hour delay at the start to lead to another hour?
I don't think so, no. Where the biggest challenge in central count is the formal pre-exporting, exporting, transfer, and importing process that occurs that the city of Milwaukee does. And you see we have 13 machines. It's a very large area. We're going to have 2 bipartisan teams. Myself and the deputy will be doing this in the public sphere. That takes a long time to walk through these 13 machines and download that information. It gets secured in a bag, all in the public sphere, then transported under police escort to Milwaukee County Courthouse. The courthouse also have its additional security measures, and then we go in and formally transfer those results to the county, and then they upload those, which that takes several hours in and of itself. We will continue to give you as many updates as possible so that you are informed and that you can let the American public where we stand. We appreciate all of your efforts today.
Has there been any challenges today, either at Central Count or any other?
I have not heard of them yet, no.
And why was there a delay this morning?
We just have a lot to count. This space is really big, and so in order to protect the security of the ballots, we wanted to make sure we don't like moving uncounted ballots outside of pods. So we made that decision. We're feeling okay. It was less than an hour. Nothing to see here. We're good. And so we'll continue to give you those updates.
For the viewers sitting home on the couch,
yeah.
In a nutshell, if they're nervous or worried about their vote, that everything is good,
yeah.
Tell them to vote?
Oh, definitely. So one of the things first, this here central count is absentee ballots. The process of absentee balloting is before the ballot is even issued, the voter has to issue an absentee application with the photo, regular voters with the photo ID. We confirm, is that person a legitimate voter? They have their application. We scan that, we track it, and we issue them a ballot. That ballot gets sent to the voter, and when it returns, we make sure, does this ballot connect with a person? So any ballot that does not, we cannot connect to a voter, any ballot that does not meet the qualifying standards will not be counted, will not be opened. We have enhanced security. We have a team of law enforcement partners here today and all throughout the city that are acting swiftly. Our chiefs are out there, lots of staff. I think the one thing I ask, it's a lot of lines. People are excited to vote in this presidential election, and we ask for patience. And then, don't fret to call us at our City Hall office if you have questions or concerns.
How many people do you have working on the process right now? people are working on the process right now, and will that go up or down as the night goes on?
Well, I think we have about 300 that registered to work. I feel like we have about 300. We have a couple people working morning shifts and a couple people working afternoon shifts. So I don't see, we have to balance that. So I don't see much of a change to, I would argue about over 300 people here in total.
What do you expect overall turnout?
I'm sorry?
What do you expect overall turnout?
Oh, the predictions of turnout. I don't know, but you know what? It's hard to read the tea leaves with early voting, but if you notice, early voting numbers surpassed 2020. So we're feeling confident. And so I hope turnout is great, but at this point, I mentioned 31,000 at 11 a.m., but that's only 96 of the 180 polling locations. And I would argue the other remaining locations that didn't report is because they're really busy. So I'm feeling good. I think when we get later in the afternoon, we'll have a better sense of where we're headed.
Quick question, Paulina. Do you know where the flash drives are? You don't need to tell us where, but they're on site to put in the...
They're on site, and remember, the flash drives right now are just flash drives. Once we go through the clearing and the formatting process, then they become official election, must be under security, and that will be occurring probably around 7.
So we've got time for another 2 or 3 more questions.
So we're hearing that a lot of people are registering to vote today.
Yes. Yes, no, those votes will, thank you, very good question. I forgot to mention, we're seeing a lot of voter registration. Voter registrations are long. It's great to see that. I just want to remind voters that when you go to register to vote, you have to bring a valid photo ID and a proof of residence. Please, please, please go on our website, check out what those details are so that you're ready when you head to the polling location. We are seeing long lines for voter registration. As long as those voter registrations, the voter presents their photo ID and their proof of residence, those ballots will be counted. They go into the machine that is at the polling location.
And did you say you're seeing more of those same-day registrations this year than in years past?
I can't speak on the details. We don't, numbers, those kinds of numbers don't happen until after the election. But what we're saying is we're seeing a lot of excitement and a lot long lines on the registration side at our polling locations.
Last question.
How are things with observers? Have you had any issues with observers? Are there a lot of them? What's that like?
No, actually, I'm proud to say, and what happens at most, if not all of our elections, is we have very minimal observer issues. When we do, we coach, we work with the chief, we talk to the observer, and it's so far so good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Paulina, can you just clarify, you started like before 9 or at 9?
It was before 9.
Just before 9?
Right down.
All right, so that does appear to be the end of this update with Milwaukee, Wisconsin officials speaking about the very latest. And we were hearing from that individual saying that she can't read the tea leaves, but she does expect those polling results to stretch in through the early morning hours of tomorrow, saying that she'll get a better update in just about 2 hours or so at 5 p.m., as she mentioned. So as we do bring you these briefings, of course, this is a very fluid situation right here, and many of these officials are providing multiple updates throughout the day as they receive new information. We will do the very same to you as we also receive that new information. All right, so what we're going to do now is we have a number of events that we are expecting to happen momentarily. The very latest is we are expecting the U.S. Capitol Police to be giving an update any moment now after they arrested a man trying to enter into the U.S. Capitol with a torch and a flare gun. Right now, we're keeping a very close eye on all of our monitors. We do not have that live stream up, as we have been told that they are working on that. So, of course, as soon as that comes into our studio, we will bring that to you. Now, earlier today, former President Trump did vote in Florida, and he shared some brief remarks with him, but also his running mate, J.D. Vance, also casting his ballot earlier today in Cincinnati, Ohio. So he also shared some brief remarks. I did want to play that out for you right now. Let's listen in.
Hey guys, good morning.
Good to see you all. Appreciate you coming out to see one of the great traditions, of course, in American democracy. I, of course, voted for Donald Trump and myself. So did my wife, and we also, for all the locals out there, we voted for Bernie Moreno for the United States Senate. And if you want the policies of Donald J. Trump in the United States Senate, then Bernie Moreno is the only candidate in this race who I think is the candidate of peace and prosperity for the United States Senate. So I hope people will get President Trump over the finish line. I hope people here in Ohio will get Bernie Moreno over the finish line. Look, I feel good. You never know until you know, but I feel good about this race. I felt good about my own race a couple of years ago when I voted in this exact same spot. Hopefully it goes as well for President Trump and me as it went for me a couple of years ago in the state of Ohio. So I appreciate you guys being here. Happy to take a few questions. You obviously can see my kids bouncing around here. There's Usha. And, we'll take a few questions, but we're going to hit the road, go back home, and then head off to Palm Beach.
Senator, regardless of the results tonight, half the country probably won't be satisfied with the results.
Sure.
What's your message to them, potentially your supporters, if it doesn't go the way that they wanted it to?
Well, look, I think our message is, first of all, we do expect to win, but obviously no matter who wins, half the country, as you said, is going to be at least partially disappointed. I think my attitude is the best way to heal the rift in the country is to try to govern the country as well as we can, create as much prosperity as we can for the American people, and remind our fellow Americans that we are all fundamentally on the same team however we voted. I certainly hope you vote for Donald J. Trump today. I think that his policies are going to promote peace and prosperity for our citizens, but if you vote the wrong way, in my view, I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to treat you as a fellow citizen. And if I am lucky enough to be your vice president, I'm going to fight hard for your dreams and for your family over the next 4 years.
Senator, do you have an opinion on who will fill your Senate seat if you win?
No, look, I'm way too superstitious to think about those things. Let's get this election over the finish line. Let's make Donald J. Trump the president-elect, and then we'll worry about what happens afterwards. No, actually, he called me about 3 in the morning, apparently from the plane headed from Michigan to Palm Beach last night. I was in bed at the time. I haven't been able to talk to him this morning. I was going to call him as soon as I woke up, but when I realized that he got back home around 5:30 last night, I decided hopefully he's asleep, and so I'm not going to call him. I'll certainly talk to him probably on the way to the airport or when we land.
Senator, you grew up 20 miles away, Middletown. Now you're standing here. Maybe in a few hours you'll be the next vice president.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that in that moment? Here to here, and possibly second in command.
Look, it's an amazing thing. My heart is just overwhelmed with gratitude to the generosity of the American people. The fact that I'm standing here is very much a testament to the fact that we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. The fact that I have a beautiful wife and 3 beautiful kids is more importantly a testament to the fact that we live in the greatest country in the world. So I think that what today represents is an opportunity to pay down a debt that I owe to this country. And if I am the vice president, I'm going to work as hard as I can to pay down that debt. I don't think I'll ever be able to return what this country has given to me, but I'm going to try, but we have to win first.
Sir.
You know, my most important message is we ought to argue, disagree about, persuade each other about politics. That's part of the natural process. But we can't discard friends and we can't discard family members. I think that if we all just recognize this basic principle, that we ought to love people, we ought to be friends with people, we ought to be family members with people, regardless of their politics, that would do a lot to heal the division. I know myself, I've had a lot of friends, not a lot, I've had a few friends who have cast their friendship aside because I decided that I wanted Donald J. Trump to be the winner in the last election and in this election. I think that's a tragedy, and I'm not going to follow that example. I'd say to everybody, whether you're voting for Donald Trump or voting for Kamala Harris, remember, friends and family, that stuff is what really, really matters. We ought to be kind to one another. We ought to treat each other with respect. And fundamentally, what we're trying to do, President Trump and I, is just build the kind of country where our fellow Americans can achieve their dreams. But that's all of our fellow Americans, regardless of who they vote for. We'll take one more question.
Senator.
No, I'm not too worried about that. Look, one outlier poll doesn't change what we've seen on the ground. We feel very good about the energy. We feel very good about the early vote. But ultimately, the ball is in the courts of the American people. Today is the day. If you don't want an open border, vote for Donald Trump. If you want to get back to low inflation and affordable groceries, vote for Donald Trump. If you want to return the world to peace and stability, vote for Donald Trump. That's my pitch to voters. I really do believe that we can have a golden age of prosperity in the United States of America, but voters are going to ultimately make that choice. I don't worry about any one poll. I think that we're going to win. I really do, but ultimately the voters make that decision. We'll see what they think about this by the end of the day, hopefully. God bless you guys. Thank you. Ready?
So that was J.D. Vance speaking with reporters after he cast his ballot in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that is what millions of Americans are doing on this election day. I did want to share this live look with you. This is a live look out of El Segundo, California, as folks on the West Coast are casting their ballots at this hour. And then I'm going to take you to Madison, Wisconsin. This is a live look of folks casting their ballots over there. And so millions of people, they've already voted, cast their ballots early. A lot more are casting their
We got
ballots
Dallas
on
showing
this
pretty
election day. Of
partly
course,
cloudy. We got
polling
Dallas showing
locations
in.
are already tabulating some of those ballots, and this is a live look at one of those locations out of Philadelphia as they are currently counting those ballots right there. This is a look at our live countdown to when the first polls close on the East Coast. 3 hours, 51 minutes, and 33 seconds. And so we do expect to start getting some of those results after those polls close as people are tabulating those ballots. And of course, you can count on Live Now from Fox to bring you the very latest information as it comes out. Our primetime coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern time today, right here on Live Now from Fox. We are going to be giving you those results in real time as they come in. The presidential race, of course, but also the very important congressional races as the Senate, the balance of power hangs in the balance right here, as well as the House. We're also talking about those all-important gubernatorial races and those ballot initiatives. So all of that we are going to be sharing with you in real time. We have a panel of experts to talk about what these results mean for you, for the average American, what this means for your wallet, what this means for your future. So we're going to be speaking with experts throughout the night and also throughout the next day, because this isn't going to end tonight. This is going to spill over into tomorrow. We have you covered 24 hours a day right here on Live Now from Fox. All right, we're going to step away for a quick 2-minute break. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. We continue to follow all of these live looks across the country as millions of Americans are casting their ballots. And to talk more about Election Day, but also talking about early voting, I do want to bring in Aaron Cutler, who is one of our experts that we've been speaking with a lot. He is the partner and leader of government relations and public affairs at Hogan Lovells. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me today, Stephanie. It's been good.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of movement already when we're talking about folks casting their ballots. But I do want to ask you this: early voting versus voting on Election Day. Voting on Election Day, traditional, right? This is what millions of Americans prefer to do. This year, though, we have seen historic levels of early voting. And from your perspective, you know, in politics, does this indicate anything when it comes to the amount of excitement and then also perhaps the results of the polls?
So it's hard to tell at this stage. It does show enthusiasm, right? Republicans this time around in 2020, President Trump told them that it's okay to vote early. Right. In 2016, there was a healthy skepticism, or 2020, there was a healthy skepticism about voting early. He said, go to the polls. I don't trust voting early. This time, President Trump said, please vote early. Mail-in ballots are fine. Get there early. Just vote. So you're seeing a surge in Republicans voting early this time around. What we don't know is whether those Republicans are new voters, whether they were voters that weren't going to vote. Anyhow, so we don't know that yet. We're not going to know that until the exit polling comes out late tonight, tomorrow. So it's hard to discern what sort of voter that is and how it's going to impact the outcome of the election right now.
And as you mentioned, we're not really going to know some of those statistics until those exit polls are conducted. When it comes to energizing not just the base, because I think for both parties, for the Republican Party and also the Democratic Party, the bases are energized. It's the other voters really that are key in this particular race, undecided voters and perhaps voters who just decided they weren't going to vote this time around. You know, have you seen any difference for this election cycle when it comes to maybe people who decided, you know what, we're just not going to participate and then change their mind? Has there been any discussion on that?
Yeah, I've heard anecdotally that people are voting for the first time. You know, they're upset about the economy. They're upset about immigration. They're upset about President Trump's, one of his speaker's remarks at MSG a few weeks ago. So there were incidents in this campaign, this cycle, that got people out of the House to vote for the first time on either side, against either candidate, for either candidate, for whatever reason. We just don't know yet if that's going to impact the race. Last time around in 2020, Pennsylvania was decided, Wisconsin was decided by tens of thousands of votes. So it could be enough this time around to really be determinative in one of these swing states.
And you were saying this time around it could really be the determining factor. What other factors are you taking a look at? I mean, we've heard time and time again, you know, this is going to be the most important election. We've heard that before, but this time it does seem different. Are there any unique factors that you're keeping a very close eye on this time around?
There are a lot of factors, right? The Dobbs decision, women, the gender gap between men and women, never Trumpers, Republicans, Liz Cheney campaigning, Biden supporters, whether they're all going to transfer to Harris. There wasn't a primary after Biden stepped down. There was a coronation. President Trump was shot in the ear. We've never seen that before, and gets up and, you know, kind of rallies and said, fight, fight, fight after that. That was an iconic image. I think that rallied his base and a lot of new supporters for him after that happened. The economy, inflation, right? I bought eggs today, $4.39. When President Trump was in office, they were $1.50. So I think the American people are still feeling that, and they're going to go vote and based on their pocketbooks. Bill Clinton famously said, "Is the economy stupid?" Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? So I think people are going to be thinking about that too. We still have Ukraine, Russia, Gaza, Israel going on. So that's in the back of people's mind. That's going to impact Michigan in a significant way, I think. Jill Stein, RFK Jr., third-party candidates, are they going to have an impact on the outcome of this race? That may be enough. Tens of thousands of votes, again, could determine certain swing states.
Aaron, I would love to continue this conversation. We are going to have to pivot. I'm sure that you've heard that the U.S. Capitol Police, they have arrested a man trying to get into the U.S. Capitol with a torch gun and a flare. They are actually just starting that briefing right now in Washington, D.C. We want to bring our viewers to that. So we appreciate you coming on. No doubt we are going to be speaking with you again in the coming days as we do learn more about those election results. But I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we are going to pivot to that briefing right now.
Hello, everybody. You have a good mic check? You ready to go? Everyone's good? Okay. I'm Tim Barber. I'm the Communications Director for the United States Capitol Police. Obviously, today's a very big day. And this is why we wanted to alert you to what happened today and the action that our officers took. United States Capitol Police Chief J. Thomas Manger is going to give you a brief synopsis as to what happened today, and then he's going to answer a few questions, keeping in mind that obviously this just happened this afternoon, and there's some details that we have to hold back as our investigators do their work. Here's Chief Manger.
At about 12:20 this afternoon, a white male entered the south entrance of the Capitol Visitor Center and approached the screening area. He was directed to put his coat and his backpack down for screening. He stood there for a few seconds, then put his stuff on the conveyor belt. As soon as his backpack and his jacket went into the screening area, U.S. Capitol Police officers staffing that screening area saw what appeared to be something in the shape of a firearm. They also saw 2 bottles in the backpack. As the man was standing there, one of the officers noticed a faint odor of gasoline, and when they pulled the backpack off the conveyor belt, they noticed a much stronger scent of gasoline. At that point, the subject was detained. He was placed under arrest. We found a flare gun, a lighter, and a torch lighter in his jacket. There was also other articles in his backpack, and he is now in custody. And again, very active investigation. We located his vehicle. That was several blocks away. We now have the vehicle as well. And again, ongoing investigation. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
It's my understanding that he had a manifesto that was anti-government and had maybe some pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel manifestations in that, and that he had driven all night from Michigan. Is that accurate? And what can you elaborate on that?
He had papers with him that he said his intent was to deliver them to Congress. We're still going through all of those papers. It's quite a bit, and we are trying to determine where, in fact, he did come from. And again, active investigation, so there's a lot of follow-up. When we get that information, there'll be additional follow-up. So we believe that it was some sort of accelerant. It could have been gasoline, some sort of accelerant. I've heard a couple of different things about what may have been in the bottles. It appeared that at least one of the bottles was leaking, and that's why the backpack smelled so strongly. So we're still trying. I don't know what exactly was in. We believe it's either gasoline or some other accelerant. He was very compliant. Watching the video as he approached the Capitol Visitors Center, he was walking fairly slowly, looking around. When he walked into the CVC, he's observed looking around, looking up, looking to the left, to the right. And it was actually then that one of the officers came up and said, "Sir, you need to put your stuff on the machine." And he hesitated for a moment. The officer told him again. That's when he got closer to the screening area and put his stuff on the conveyor belt.
Have you told officers what his intent was?
He made a few statements to the officers, but he's being interviewed now by the investigators, and so we haven't gotten the results of that interview yet.
Chief, the Capitol Visitor Center was closed to anybody coming in, but I talked to a number of people who were already inside who had no idea what was going on outside. What was the thinking of allowing the people who were already in there to remain in there as opposed to being evacuated?
Well, he was in custody, and we had his belongings, so we closed the visitor center after he came in, and we determined what we had, so no one else could come in. The people that were inside the visitor center were further inside the visitor center, and were not in any danger.
Chief, did it happen at this entrance behind us or on the other side?
It happened right, the one on the to your left.
Okay.
It's a south entrance.
And do your officers have a working theory? Did he plan to light himself on fire, light something else on fire? Do we know?
It's hard to tell. He had some articles in his backpack that he may have wanted to set on fire. It did not appear that he had doused all of his clothing. There was some of his clothing that smelled like gasoline, but not all of it. So it's really unknown at this point what his intention was.
In light of this situation, will there be any additional security measures taken, and how long will they be taken?
Well, we're on certainly on a heightened alert, and have been for the days up till the election day today, and we are have an enhanced posture in terms of our security currently, and it'll just continue through November, through December, through January, all the way through and beyond the inauguration if need be. It was a flare gun.
Can you describe the torch a little better? Torch gun?
No, I believe it's like a torch lighter that you would light a pipe with or light a cigar with, something like that.
Do you have any sense this was all related to elections, or just something else? Do you have any sense of what?
There was no indication. There's no indication right now that it had anything to do with the election.
Can you describe?
Obviously, there's a lot of concerns among members generally about violence throughout the election at this moment. Is there a briefing plan for them? Has the Capitol Police communicated to them about this incident? And in general, what is your message to members and officers concerned?
So we have put a message out to our stakeholders here. We've been briefing different committees and different members of leadership over the past several weeks in terms of our preparation for the election, and the inauguration, and as well as next January 6th.
Can you describe the clothing? Were they seasonal? It's a warm day here, obviously in Washington. Was that something that the officers noticed as well?
He did appear to have heavier clothing than was warranted for a day like today. Well, I do know that they have found information on social media, and I know that they're in the process of reviewing that. I don't have the results of that review yet.
Does any of that put you most speak to any issues that you cared about and heard something about when you wanted to Palestine?
Certainly, as we go through the papers that he had with him and go through his social media, getting a good focus in terms of what his issues were.
All right, folks, we have time for a couple more questions.
Was that one of his issues, Israel or Gaza?
It may have been. It may have been.
And you said you're working to determine where he's from. Does it appear at least that he is from outside the D.C. area?
I believe it appears that he's from outside the D.C. area, yes. All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
And folks, we will be putting out a press release later with some more information. Obviously, our investigators are working right now to piece some more things together. As soon as we have more information that we can provide, we'll push that out on our website and on social media as well. Thank you.
So that was the very latest as Capitol Police just gave an update on the man they arrested trying to enter into the U.S. Capitol with a torch and a flare gun. And if you're just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, I did want to bring you the very latest as you are taking a live look at the U.S. Capitol on this Tuesday, Election Day. Important to note, during that update, we were hearing from police saying that they do not believe this arrest had anything to do with Election Day. I did want to bring you the very latest information from Capitol Police saying that they stopped a man earlier today during a security screening at the Capitol Visitor Center. Authorities say that he smelled of fuel and he was carrying a flare gun and torch. Basically, what happened is he was carrying a backpack. He went into the screening area, and when he put his backpack on the conveyor belt, that is when security saw what appeared to be something in the shape of a firearm. They also noticed that there were 2 bottles in the backpack, which likely was the fuel that they smelled. Now, according to police, we just heard the man they arrested, quote, he was very compliant. They said that he was walking fairly slowly, looking around, but he was fairly compliant when they arrested him. They did not publicly identify him or give any possible motive as to why he would have a flare gun and a torch in a backpack along with fuel. They said that they are currently questioning him, and we just heard from one of the public information officers that they will be providing more information via a press release later on today. The consequences of this, though, officials have now canceled public tours of the Capitol for the rest of the day. Police, of course, still investigating the motive, and we also heard that they do believe that the man was from outside the Washington, D.C. area. Now, all of this comes as authorities are on heightened alert for security issues around Washington, D.C. and near the White House around Election Day, but wanted to remind you, police as of now say they do not believe that this arrest had anything to do with the elections. All right, we are going to step away for a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox. After that, continuing our election coverage and specifically taking a look at the impact of younger voters. We're going to be speaking with Deborah Cleaver, the CEO of the nonprofit Vote America, coming up after the break in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. Time right now is 3:32 Eastern, 12:32 Pacific, and happening right now all across the United States. Folks are voting, making their opinion known. I wanted to share this look with you because this is a live look at when the first polls on the East Coast close. 3 hours, 27 minutes, and just about 15 seconds. And right now, we don't know the specifics of the demographics, but the big question is younger voters, Gen Z voters. Are they voting? How are they voting? And to speak more on this, I do want to bring in Deborah Cleaver, who is the CEO of the nonprofit Vote America. Deborah, thank you for taking the time to speak with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I did want to ask you this because obviously today is Election Day. Your mission started way before Election Day. Your nonprofit actually went out to college and university campuses across the United States, specifically in certain key states, including some of the swing states like Arizona and Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. You wanted to reach the youth voters. When you and your team went to these campuses, what did you hear from these younger voters?
Well, first, there is a persistent myth that young people don't vote, and that hasn't been true in ages. In 2018, 2020, and 2022, we saw turnout on campuses, which was on par with turnout nationwide. So what we consistently find when we talk to young people is they don't need to be convinced to vote. They need to be taught how to vote because for most of them, it's their very first time voting. So we're not seeing any apathy. We're not seeing disinterest. We're seeing young people who just want to know what to do, when to do it, and what to bring with them when they go vote.
So, Deborah, when you're talking about this, is it more logistics like where do I go? Or is it how do I research the topics that affect me as a younger voter? What have you been hearing when they come to you with questions?
Oh, it's almost always the logistics. Young people are incredibly informed, especially compared to those of us who are older when we were their age. So they know the issues, they know what's going on. What they don't know are very tactical things like can they bring a student ID with them when they vote? Can they register to vote on election days? So it's overwhelmingly tactical questions that young people have.
So when you're having these conversations, I'm curious, what are the issues that they feel are impacting them the most? So that's the first question. But the second question is this, because as we know, information is disseminated in such a different way than some of the older generations. So my second question to you is, how are younger voters getting that information? How are they doing their research? So yeah, the first question is, what are the issues? And two, how are they doing that research on those issues?
So for young people, the issues that they care about reflect what the population at large cares about. Overwhelmingly, it's climate change, the economy, and reproductive rights. They get their information online, but they consume almost no broadcast television. So that is something that is very different for young people. And they also get a lot of their information from the campus newspapers. So we may not think this, but that's where they get their information. Fellow students, college media, and a lot of TikTok.
So, you know, we take a look back in the generations, right? Like the 60s, very politically active. You know, do you find that the younger voters now are more politically engaged or less? I mean, you told me that they're going to vote, but when it comes to the actual issues and everyday advocacy and really like, you know, standing for what they believe in, what have you been hearing on that?
They're the most engaged generation we've seen in decades. I think they're going to give the boomers a real run for their money in terms of overall political engagement.
Deborah, is there anything, you know, in your months, being part of this mission, is there anything really that surprised you?
The most surprising thing is the partisan breakdown in college students. The most recent poll shows that Kamala Harris has a 50-point lead with college students right now. That is a massive lead and potentially speaks to a problem that Republicans may face in the years ahead as they try to engage younger generations.
How much of a difference do you think that the younger vote will make in terms of the presidential election?
There is no doubt in my mind that college students and Gen Z voters have the ability to swing the election if they turn out in 2024 the way they did in 2020. They will absolutely be responsible for a margin of victory in the 7 most competitive states.
And before I let you go, I also wanted to ask you this. When it comes to those down ballot or those ballot initiatives, is that something that younger voters are also researching, or are they really just researching like the headline elections and the races?
That is a great question, and one that I am not certain that I can answer as well as I would like. But again, we just see no difference in young voters than we do with older voters. So they are not less likely to vote down ballot than people who are older. I think it really comes down to the individual voter, but I do expect that we will see higher level of engagement with young voters who are on college campuses than young voters who are not.
And as you mentioned, Deborah, it's going to be really interesting to see the breakdown of those exit polls and kind of how those demographics play out. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I did want to share our viewers this live look right here. This just came into our Live Now from Fox Studios. That is what you do, and that is what we do. This is Vice President Harris. She does seem to be at some sort of campaign headquarters right here. And I'm taking a look to see if we have any more information about this. This is the Harris headquarters right here. I'm going to raise the audio to see what we can hear.
One more here for you. Everybody take a step back.
Votes out here. Gotta talk to voters.
All right, everybody, come.
Caroline? Carolyn? Awesome. Hi, Carolyn. It's come. Hi, how are you? I'm looking at you and you're looking at me? Oh, because there's a live camera somewhere. Which cameras? This is, okay, I'm waving at you. This is waving at you.
Is this Teresa? Yes, is this Teresa?
Okay. Hi. Can you see I'm here with all these great volunteers? Hello. So I'm calling people to remind me of love.
Coming this way.
All right, so if you're just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, you're taking a live look at the Vice President Harris's campaign headquarters. This is raw, this is unfiltered. You saw those color bars pop up. So we did get just maybe about 4 minutes of that live view inside. We saw Vice President Harris chatting on the cell phone and actually speaking to whoever was on the other end and waving at the camera saying, "Can you see me?" So we did have that opportunity right there. But that is what happens. We get these live feeds in real time. We bring them to you, and sometimes, as it happens, they abruptly go out. What we're going to do now is we're going to step away for a 2-minute break, continuing our election coverage, because one of the major issues on the ballot is abortion. And I wanted to share this look with you. These are the states where abortion is on the ballot. Could this be a make it or break it issue? That is the question that we're going to be speaking with Madeline Somerville. She is an attorney and political analyst. That coming up after this 2-minute break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu, and we continue our election day coverage. We're focusing, of course, on the presidential election and all of the other races, but there are also a number of very important ballot initiatives that a lot of voters are going to make their opinion known on, and one of them being abortion. Abortion is on 10 state ballots right there: Montana, South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, Missouri, New York, Maryland, and Florida. And this is, of course, Election Day. This is the first presidential contest since Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court back in June of 2022. That talking about access to abortion. And so these states that you're seeing right there, they have amendments and ballot measures focusing on abortion. Abortion being one of several really important issues. Vice President Harris making it one of the key issues of her campaign platform. To speak more on this, I do want to bring in Madeline Somerville, who is an attorney and political analyst. And Madeline, thank you for taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So we were sharing with our viewers, and you saw right here on Live Now from Vox, the map that showed all of the states where abortion is on the ballot. And some of these states include swing states. And I wanted to ask you this, when it comes to the issue of abortion, how much do you feel that it is going to be an issue? And how much of an influence do you feel that it could have on the presidential election?
Thank you for that question. I think it's a very important one because we know from the race in 2022 that there was an increase in voter turnout overall of 10%. And pollsters have attributed that to the fact that there were so many folks from Gen Z and white suburban women who came in to vote on ballot measures relating to choice. In this particular election, I think when it comes to the swing states that have those measures on their ballot, Arizona and Nevada, I think it could work in a way that people haven't necessarily talked about yet. It's kind of like voting down ballot. So if there's, let's say, a suburban white woman who wants to vote for Trump but is hesitant because she hasn't been able to quell her fears about whether Trump would protect reproductive rights, she can vote to enshrine that right in the Constitution in her state and vote for Trump with a little less hesitancy. And so I think it's actually going to affect the presidential election dramatically in a way that maybe people haven't seen before.
And you mentioned that because these are two separate issues, of course, you can vote for one candidate and vote maybe perhaps a different way on the issue of abortion. There's been a lot of discussion about women having secret ballots, right? So they're voting secretly because of this issue. Could that be a factor? And is that something that you have been hearing from women?
I do think it could be a factor. And I think that time has told us that sometimes women who are polite and don't want to bring up anything that's a little bit more contentious in public might vote differently than they said they would at the kitchen table. And it is normal for that to happen. It happens in every election. But I think actually it's going to be balanced out by the fact that many Gen Zers are struggling to be honest about who they're voting for because it feels so contentious, especially here in Georgia. So I think the voters who want to keep their votes private might actually balance each other out.
It's really interesting, and you have a very unique perspective in that you're not only a political analyst, you're also an attorney. So in the legal sphere, when it comes to the decisions, when it comes to how the voters decide legally, what could that look like down the line?
Do you mean in terms of certification of the election?
Certification, but really more so in terms of, taking this as a legal battle. I mean, we saw the issue, of course, go all the way up in 2022 with Roe v. Wade. Could there be legal battles down the line, depending on either, how the voters decide in these states?
Most certainly. So in my experience in working with the legislature in the past, I've seen that there are folks who feel so far removed from the measures that are being discussed and decided on, for example, here at the Gold Dome in Georgia. The people don't feel like they have any say. They don't feel like they have any control. And so it makes them feel very good to be able to make their voices heard when there are referendums like this. When it comes to legal challenges, what's funny and kind of sad is that there isn't a whole lot of vetting of legislation before it gets proposed. And so a lot of times there are legal challenges because people will put something that's clearly unconstitutional in a measure sometimes. And so you can almost guarantee that there's going to be legal challenges down the line.
So just because the voters vote one way does not mean necessarily that what is being voted on is set in stone.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if people are worried about what might happen in the future if they vote one way or another, which is actually a bit promising because I do want people to feel like their vote counts and their vote matters. It's not necessarily going to predict the way that a legislature is going to go. Ultimately, in your hometown, your voice deserves to be heard. And if you can make your voice heard with your local legislature, you can make a way bigger difference than you think.
So, Madeline, we are in election day. Of course, millions of people are casting their votes. Anything that you specifically are keeping a close eye on?
Absolutely. Pennsylvania. So if either candidate is able to sweep both Pennsylvania and North Carolina, it's likely they will win the election. So as soon as we know the results of Pennsylvania and North Carolina, which we're likely to know Wednesday morning as opposed to some other states, we will likely know who the president will be.
So you were mentioning that you are in Georgia, Georgia, of course, being one of the swing states. I have to ask, what is the mood like in Georgia? You know, out and about, of course, so many people are waiting in line to cast their ballots. Millions more have already done so. But what is the mood like today?
So today in Georgia, it is very contentious. The Fulton County polling places have received multiple non-credible bomb threats over the last few hours. There's a reason that Georgia is a swing state, and it's because we have so many folks with polar opposite opinions. And so we're hoping that as the day goes on, it'll get a little less contentious and we'll all be happy to get a final answer.
So, you know, not to put you on the spot, but I'm just curious, did you vote early or did you vote today already?
I voted early, actually.
Okay.
And I got 2 little peach stickers.
Okay. You know, and we were seeing record numbers in Georgia. I mean, historic numbers when it comes to early voting. What's the reason behind that, do you think? People just already making up their minds?
I think this segment, specifically on reproductive rights, is so important, specifically because I think that's what's causing the higher voter turnout. I think that there are folks in Gen Z, specifically women 29 and under, and suburban white women who are motivated to either vote if they wouldn't have otherwise, or to be pushed one side or the other. So I really do think that this reproductive rights issue is the one that has the power to swing the election.
And we will see. It is going to be very interesting to see those results as they come down. Madeline, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And of course, we're talking about those election results, abortion being one of those key ballot initiatives on the ballot in 10 different states. So the first polls closed. We're talking about eastern states. 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 20 seconds. And of course, polls across the United States, they close at different times. States have different methods and rules when it comes to when they're able to count those ballots, including absentee ballots. So we will bring you all of that in real time as they come in. We're going to be with you throughout the night. Our primetime coverage starts at 6 p.m. Eastern on Live Now from Fox. So as these results come in, presidential election, of course, but also those important ballot initiatives like abortion, the gubernatorial races, the congressional races. We are going to bring all of those results in real time. Prime time starts at 6 p.m. Eastern time with our host, Andrew Kraft. But it's going to go throughout the night. And so many folks, and we've been hearing from those election officials, this will likely last through tomorrow. We will likely not know the full results until tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. So we're going to be with you every step of the way. We have continuous coverage around the clock right here on Live Now from Fox. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. We just got a new live look into our Live Now from Fox studios, and I wanted to share this with you. This is a live look, and this is a split screen as they are setting up. It does look like they have two different camera angles, but what you're taking a look at is the Trump election headquarters. So we do know that former President Trump is going to be watching the election results come in at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. He may or may not make his way here to the headquarters in Palm Beach County. This is at the convention center in West Palm Beach, Florida. But you can see, at least from this vantage point, that they are expecting a large crowd right here. They actually, oh, there you go. You could actually see it wipe in real time away to this full shot of the floor right there, and of course the slate. So it does look like they're actually running through a couple of these different camera angles. This is live, raw, and unfiltered, and we bring it to you as it happens. It does look like they have various camera angles inside the convention center right here, and in fact you can see the camera kind of panning in on the stage right there with the very large screen. That is probably where they're going to be watching those live results come in real time. And you can see the stage right there. At this point, we do not know if former President Trump is going to make his way here to the convention center. This is the Trump election night headquarters at the Palm Beach County Convention Center in West Palm Beach. We know, at least right now, he does plan on watching those election results, not here at the convention center, but at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. So we did want to share that with you as this just came into our Live Now from Fox studios. And also, we were sharing with you just a little bit earlier, Vice President Harris visiting the Harris headquarters. We saw her talking on the phone right there. We do know that she will be watching election results at Howard University, her alma mater. That is in Washington, D.C. So as we do await another live event, we are expecting Maryland officials to be providing an update momentarily. Still waiting for that live look to come in to our studios right here. But as we continue to wait on that live event, just a short time ago, North Carolina election officials gave their update, North Carolina being one of those key swing states. So we did want to share you the very latest out of North Carolina right now. Let's listen in.
Good morning, North Carolina, and happy Election Day. I'm Karen Brinson Bell, Executive Director of the State Board of Elections. I'm here with Paul Cox, General Counsel to the State Board, who will help answer your questions in a moment. Today is the last day for eligible, registered North Carolinians to cast their ballot in this important election. Polls across the state are open until 7:30 p.m., and if you are in line at 7:30 p.m., you will be able to vote. Voters should go to their assigned polling place. To find your polling place, use the voter search tool on the State Board website, ncsbe.gov, and don't forget to bring your photo ID. Yesterday, we sent out a press release titled 10 Tips for Election Day Voters in North Carolina. Please share these tips with your audiences so we can have a smooth election day as well. If you haven't voted yet, please take time today to make your voice heard. As a reminder, all voters will be asked to show photo identification when they check in to vote. Most voters will simply show their driver's license, but many types of photo ID will be accepted. Go to bringitinc.gov for more information about the photo ID requirement and a full list of acceptable IDs. We also want to remind voters that if you forget your ID, poll workers must offer you a provisional ballot and the opportunity to either fill out an ID exception form explaining why you are unable to show photo ID, or return to your County Board of Elections office to show your photo ID before 5 p.m. on November 14th. No voter should be turned away from the polls, for not having an ID with them. At this time, we are unaware of any disruptions or delays at polling places that may necessitate extending voting hours beyond 7:30 p.m. That's simply remarkable, considering more than 2,600 polling places opened statewide this morning. We will continue to monitor polling places statewide, and if necessary, we will call a state board meeting to consider any voting extensions. At this time, we have not heard reports of any major incidents at any polling places. We also have not heard reports of long lines today. It is a good day to go vote. We have been addressing reports that the State Board's voter search tool on ncsbe.gov has been running a bit slow today. This is not unusual for election days when tens of thousands of people are accessing the search tool at the same time. We ask voters to be patient and wait for your information to load. Finally, we want to remind the public that they can watch results come in tonight after polls close on the State Board's elections result dashboard found at ncsbe.gov. We remind members of the media to read the press release, 9 Facts About the Vote Counting and Reporting Process in North Carolina. There are a few important things to remember about election night results. They are always unofficial in the days after the election. Bipartisan election officials in all 100 counties will ensure every eligible ballot is counted. They will audit and ultimately certify the results. This is called the canvass process, and it occurs after every election. For local contests, the county boards will certify results on November 15th. For all other contests, the state board will certify final results on November 26th. The state board anticipates that the unofficial results reported by the end of election night will include about 98% of all ballots cast in the election. Over the 10-day canvass period, provisional ballots and some absentee ballots will be counted and uploaded to the results dashboard. These ballots are required to be counted after Election Day by law, and North Carolina's election officials will follow that law. Election officials do not call elections. Projections are made by media and/or the candidates using unofficial results, typically based on exit polls or the vote difference and the number of votes yet to be counted in a contest. Election officials will go through the post-election canvass processes as required by law, no matter how close the contest. Stay tuned to the State Board for additional press releases, and we will send out a notice for any additional press conferences in the coming days. With that, we will take your questions. We'll start in the room first, and then we'll go to the phone or online, and remind those folks who are using the phone or online system to press 1 when they do ask their questions. So is there anyone in the room? You'll go to one of the mics, if you would, please.
Hi, thank you for doing this and the other press conferences leading up to today. Brittany Gibson from Politico. I just wanted to follow up on something you had mentioned at last week's press conference about when you expect to have your unofficial tabulations tonight. You mentioned, I believe, in 2020, it was about a little after 12:30 a.m. Where do you project tonight being? And with the caveat of course, you're not going to rush to beat last time's
So our official final upload in 2020 was 12:28 a.m. on that Wednesday morning. And so I have challenged everyone to let's meet that or do better than that. Now, we have to be, face reality of it. That's our goal. But, there are a lot of votes to deal with once the polls close. With this election, new to our laws, we cannot tabulate and upload the early voting results at the close of polls like we've been able to do in the past. So those will not be released until after the polls close. The tabulators will be closed down and the results will be uploaded with the election night results as they come in. So at 7:30 p.m. we will release the absentee by mail results, and then we will just begin to gather the results from the election day polling sites. And being mindful that we do not modem results in North Carolina. So if you just factor in that if the polls are able to close at 7:30 p.m. because no one is in line, it's going to still take a solid hour or so before the results would be driven to the county board site. And we've got over 2,600 polling places that have to do that tonight. So the bulk of our results we anticipate would be probably between 9:30 to 11 p.m. And we'll address anything that's running slower than that. We'll also caution everyone that that's a large volume of data hitting our results dashboard at the same time. So just like we're experiencing some lag because of the interest in our voter search tool, we may be experiencing some lag in the results just because of the sheer volume of data that's going in and the interest that we're seeing in our results. Thank you.
I'm
Yes,
Dina
ma'am.
with CBS 17. Thank you, guys. I have two questions. One, you said that thankfully no major issues reported yet this morning. If you guys have seen any issues at all, whether it be this morning or over early voting, what have those been? And second question being, we've been hearing that the damage from Helene in Western North Carolina thankfully isn't impacting the election so much. Is that the same that are you guys still seeing that this morning, that things are running smoothly there?
So again, no incidents to speak of. There were just, I think, 3, maybe 4 polling places that had some delay in getting going, but they turned no voter away. They went to their manual process or were able to move things along quickly. So, we feel like, knock on wood, that we are in very good shape. Obviously, there could be some sort of disruption. We've had accidents to happen near a polling place that's delayed traffic or, power outages or something like that that might create a problem throughout the day. But with the good weather and the good planning and so forth, we're hopeful that we won't see any further disruptions that could cause any delay.
We're taking a listen there to North Carolina officials giving an update just a short time ago and talking about Hurricane Helene. Of course, they were absolutely devastated by hurricanes, saying that there has been some delays, especially given the amount of damage. They say that they expect results to start coming in later on. And that's what we've been hearing from election officials, is that they are going to be receiving and tabulating those ballots tonight once those polls close, but likely won't get the full results until early or later tomorrow. And so we are going to be with you every step of the way. We are going to be around the clock covering those live results as they come in. We do have a number of live looks, especially in swing states. There are 7 key swing states that are so important in this election, and I did want to share that with you right now. If you're just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, 7 states that could make or break the presidential election. Pennsylvania has the highest number of electoral votes with 19, and analysts are keeping a very close eye on it. Not only analysts, but former President Trump and Vice President Harris yesterday, both campaigning in Pennsylvania, speaking directly to voters, urging them to vote, saying that Pennsylvania will be the deciding state. That is according to former President Trump and Vice President Harris, really urging voters in Pennsylvania to get out to vote. Georgia has 16 electoral votes. North Carolina, we were just hearing from officials right there, also with 16 electoral votes. Michigan has 15 electoral votes. Arizona, 11, Wisconsin, 10, and Nevada with 6. So these are the major states states that everyone is keeping a very close eye on that could make or break this election season. And not only are we keeping an eye on the presidential election, but there are important ballot initiatives. And earlier we were speaking with a political analyst and attorney. We're talking, of course, about abortion on the state ballot. You can see 10 different states. This could also be a contributing factor in terms of the results. How people feel on this issue could not only impact those ballot initiatives, but also the presidential election as well. Something else that we're keeping a very close eye on, marijuana. Marijuana being on the state ballot in these 4 different states, legalizing in some capacity or another. Florida, for instance, that initiative would legalize recreational marijuana right there. So we're going to break down all of these results on the races, on the presidential election, on these ballot initiatives. Our primetime coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to have our host Andrew Kraft at the helm, along with the entire Live Now from Fox team, ready to give you those results as they come in real time. And we're also going to be having a panel of experts to talk about the significance of those results, to talk about the impact of those results. And so we will be with you around the clock right here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to step away for a 2-minute break. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. Time right now is 4:16 Eastern, 1:16 Pacific. I wanted to share this look with you as we are anticipating those very first polls to close on the East Coast in 2 hours, 43 minutes and 31 seconds. We were sharing a live look inside former President Trump's headquarters and where they are going to be tabulating and watching the results as they come in real time. That is at the Palm Beach Convention Center. They have turned that live look off. I did want to share that with you, but they just shared that with us for a brief moment. So we did want to take advantage of that live look. Vice President Harris, she is going to be watching those results come in at Howard University, her alma mater in Washington, D.C. Now, earlier, former President Trump cast his ballot along with his wife, Melania Trump, and sharing some thoughts. And I did want to play that out for you right now. Let's listen in.
we're too. It's too early to congratulate, but we are hearing it's record kind of numbers. Caroline, do you want to just tell them what you told me a little while ago?
Sure, yeah. Enthusiasm is very high. We're seeing our voters are turning out, especially in rural areas across the country, and we see Democrat areas are not turning out as great as our people. So your people are ready, and they're turning out for you, sir.
And we had a big lead to start off with. Now here it's really amazing. I get a call from the people in Texas, Dan Patrick and others. They say that they've never actually seen anything like it. So it should be good. It should be good. I want to just thank everybody, regardless. We just wanted to come over and pay our respects. Our #1 best-selling author. Can you believe it? So we have a big day. We'll be watching, and it'll be very interesting. I hope they come up with a result tonight. They say areas that were winning big, they might not be able to come up with it for 2 days. It's just a crazy thing. And I'm really saying this more for the press than for you. They should do paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and be done. One day, same day. And by 10 o'clock, everybody would be... And you know, you're talking about for 8% of the cost. It would cost 8%. Think of that. For 8%, you get a better product. But we'll have to look at it.
This is the heartbeat of your organization, sir.
This is a great... Well, you're the heartbeat, too, aren't you? What about Alex? How's Alex? Are you surprised?
You're doing great, sir. You built the greatest political movement in history, and everybody here has been working super hard for you. And you're our inspiration, and we're going to bring this up today.
It's very nice. Thank you. It's very nice. And I hear the social media has been just unbelievable.
You make it easy for us. You give us a lot of
Joe
content.
Rogan has been just he's a great guy, and that was a big thing that he did that. He just doesn't do that, and that he did that. I think it meant a lot. So all over the country, I hear it's all red, and we don't need that. You know, we went in with a very big lead, so we just had to sort of keep it. But I hear it's beyond that, and it's a movement. There's never been a movement like this, and we're going to turn our country around. We're going to not let people that murder people come into our country. We're not going to let drug dealers come into our country and terrorists come into our country. Little things like that, people are not going to stand them, and that's why we're doing well. But you know what? We still have a time to go, so let's make sure that we have this under control. And some of you I'm going to see tonight, I would imagine. I hope all of you. So I'll be seeing you tonight, and it'll be great. The First Lady's coming with us, and she's really impressed by the job you've done. Would you like to say something?
A great job. Thank you so much for all your support. And it was hard work. I know it's hours to hours, and I know how hard my husband is working non-stop. So, but thank you for all your support. Great job.
Thank you. Actually, the day before too, we did a lot of rallies, and they're big ones. We did full rallies as opposed to, so we got in about 5 o'clock in the morning. We left Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be great, especially since we killed the biggest factory that auto factory that I think anywhere at any time, which would have, destroyed them. And we did that without being president. So that was a big thing, but I think Michigan's going to be good. They're all looking really good. Susie, I can't think of anything. I'm hearing any weaknesses, right?
Not
What do you think of Susie? Would you say good? Well, we just wanted to come over and pay our respects. This is really great, and we're going to see you tonight, and hopefully they'll be able to get these expensive computers going. The reason you use computers is to make time so that it's like fast. You don't use them so that you have to come up with an answer 3 days later. And that's a little scary when they say, what are they doing? You use a computer because it calculates quickly. And you use paper because you save cost. But the paper turns out to be much quicker than the computer. There's something wrong with that, so we don't like that. But there are a lot of things that are happening in our country that have to be changed. And we'll do it, and we'll do what's right for the country. And I think that's why we're doing well. But let's see if we can close it out. But it would be, I just asked about it, wouldn't it be nice if after spending billions of dollars that they could have a computer give an answer by like 10 o'clock in the evening. Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't really make sense. It's crazy. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Have a good day. And you're going to be watching, and they're going to be watching. Make sure there's no cheating, right? There's going to be no cheating. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I like that.
So that was former President Trump and his wife Melania Trump talking about voting in Florida after they voted. I also wanted to share this live look with you. Take a look at this. This is a live look from Palm Beach, Florida. This is where the Trump election headquarters is being held. This is at the Palm Beach Convention Center. They just popped this live look right here for us. And you can see the stage is set. The American flags are raised. They're expecting a very large crowd right there, but the person who will not be most likely in the crowd, former President Trump himself. He will not be at the convention center watching the election results come in. Instead, he will be at the Mar-a-Lago Club with his family right there. It's unclear as to whether he will make his way down to the convention center, perhaps depending on what those election results reveal and when. He's saying right there, as we shared with you, saying that he hopes that a decision is made sometime tonight. And we have been playing these things out for you. We also shared with you a live look inside the Harris headquarters in Washington, D.C., we believe, as she was on the phone with someone. Vice President Harris been keeping a very low profile today, not making any speeches, not making any sort of a comment. And so we can't share that with you because we don't have any comment from her. It's also unclear as to whether she will be speaking later on today. We do know that she will be watching those election results come in at her alma mater, Howard University in Washington, D.C. We are awaiting a number of live events. We're anticipating Maryland election officials to be giving an update. That was set to happen just about 30 minutes ago. They're running behind. We're keeping a very close eye on all of our live streams in our Live Now from Fox Studios. We're going to step away for a 2-minute break. After that, we're going to be speaking with Richard Gordon, a political analyst, analyzing all the big headlines and takeaways on this election day. That conversation coming up after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Time right now is 4:27 Eastern, 1:27 Pacific. We continue our Election Day coverage, and I do want to bring in Richard Gordon, who is a political analyst, to talk more about Election Day and really everything that has led up to it. Richard, we appreciate you hopping on.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
First off, I have to make a comment. I do enjoy and appreciate your I voted sticker.
Yep. Well, I did go to vote this morning, and I live in a pretty small town. And in my many years of living here, I have walked in, voted, and walked out. But today, when I got there, there was a line out the door. And when you got inside, it wound around a little bit, and there were people all over the place. Everyone was in a very good mood, but it was pretty crowded. I mean, as crowded as I've ever seen it in where I live. And Stephanie, I don't know if this means anything, or we should look into this as something important and some type of omen or whatnot. But I was number 1776.
Well, there you go. A very significant number in America's history.
I think it's a comment about American democracy, and that we were all voting and we were all together and everyone was in a good mood, and it seemed like the right thing. So,
well, I mean,
yeah.
and that's really important, Richard, because I wanted to ask you this. You know, this election season has been incredibly contentious. And, you know, in some areas, the mood is tense. But you mentioned that everyone was in a good mood on this election day, which is really interesting to note. You know, and you were also talking about on election day, the line being extremely long. I myself voted early, and the polling staff said they have never seen a line that long before. When it comes to early voting, when it comes to election day voting, and really the record number, at least we know as of yet, the early voters, what does that signify for this election?
Well, I'll tell you, there is tremendous interest. There is tremendous excitement. And, you know, I have rarely seen something like this where both sides, I mean, look, both sides could say what they want about this and how they want to read into it. But I think both sides have turned out a lot of people. I mean, we have states that have turned out 50% of their voters already before we got to today. So it's a very different system now than we've had any time in our past. But it's sort of interesting, you know, in 2016, especially in 2020, you know, Donald Trump was railing against early voting and telling his people not to do it. Well, I think he realized that early voting is a great thing. And I don't think it's a political thing. I don't think it's a partisan thing anymore. I think both Democrats and Republicans understand that having one day to go vote, a Tuesday, doesn't always work for them. You know, they have work commitments, they have family commitments, they got to get the kids to school, you know, whatever they need to be doing, it just doesn't work for them. Maybe they're a newscaster who has to be at the studio, you know, at the station. So there are many reasons that early voting makes sense. But what's interesting about what's going on is the huge numbers of people who have voted early. It's historic. We've never seen this before. I think it's a harbinger of things to come. I think we're going to move more and more and more to making, and this is a great thing, by the way. I mean, you know, we could talk about American democracy, but it is a wonderful thing that people have the opportunity to vote. And let's just make it as easy as we can for people to vote. We need a voting system that's fair and open and transparent, and we understand who votes and who doesn't and who should and who shouldn't. But anyone who wants to vote should get the chance to vote, and making it a little easier on people, expanding the window to vote, I think is critical to keeping our democracy alive.
And also making voting accessible. I think perhaps we have been hearing from people who said that they weren't going to vote this election season, disinterested, and now there seems to be more engagement, really finding some of the issues that have been discussed: the economy, immigration, women's reproductive rights, some of these issues, many of them really talking about, and we've talked about this before, the kitchen table issues, the ones that affect affect people daily, not just, you know, the high level issues that people feel don't pertain to them. For this election season, have you seen that more than ever when it comes to issues and initiatives that really speak to the core of people's values and of people's priorities?
Well, you know, it's sort of interesting because we have two things going on at the same time. In 1992, you know, it was all about the economy, stupid, with Bill Clinton when he was running against George Bush. So we've seen the dinner table type of things go on for a long time. You know, Ronald Reagan with, "Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?" People are very concerned about prices. You can't go anywhere. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I don't care who you are. Um, People talk about prices. Now, some people blame President Biden for it. Some people blame the pandemic. People blame different people for it. But fundamentally, people are concerned with everyday type of issues, the type of things that affect their families, their ability to get on with their lives. This is a really big issue. It's not going to be solved today, you know, with this election, but you know, the price of eggs, the price of cookies, the price of gas, which has gone down, fortunately, a lot, but people not being able to buy a house, people who are making really good livings who just can't buy a house, um, is really troubling. And the whole concept, the whole American dream concept that people can live a certain life and achieve in the United States is at risk. That's not a political comment. It doesn't matter what party you're at. People feel it and they hear it and they talk about it. And these are the type of issues I find that you, in a way, could get beyond politics because people can talk about it and they can share this. Look, I'm just as concerned about the price of food as someone who's not going to vote the way I did. So we could share that. What's
Right. No, absolutely. I did want to bring this up, Richard, to share with our viewers a map that we've made of the 7 swing states. These are the make it or break it states, and many people are focusing on certain ones. For you, as we wait for these election results to come in, what states are you keeping a very close eye on? What are the difference makers, so to speak?
Well, look, if President Trump sweeps the South, the southern western states, the Sun Belt, he only gets to 268, right? He needs to break through. If he only wins the bottom 4 states on the map, he loses by 2 votes. So he needs a northern state. So by definition, if Harris holds Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, she's the president of the United States. So, you know, what am I looking at? I think she's going to carry Michigan. I think she's made a little distance there, and I think her campaign feels comfortable on Michigan. Wisconsin, I think, is of a great concern to her because you can see how often she and the Walzes have been there. I mean, Governor Walz has been there many times. Mrs. Walz has been there many times. Former President Trump was there recently. There's a lot of attention being put on Wisconsin. But it's all about Pennsylvania. It is almost impossible to make a map that for Harris, it doesn't include Pennsylvania. For Trump, sweep the bottom 4, win one of the 3, he wins. For her, if you take Pennsylvania and it's 19 votes away, she needs 2 states. And of the 4 states, boy, it's tough. Could she get Georgia and maybe. Can she get North Carolina plus 1 more? Maybe. I think most people think Arizona is out of reach for the Democrats. So now we're down to 3 states and she needs 2 of them. I think it's really tough. So for me, curious about Wisconsin, but focused, tremendously focused on Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania will decide the presidency.
And that is exactly what former President Trump and Vice President Harris told Pennsylvanians yesterday. They held their, final arguments, if it were, last night in Pennsylvania. And they told voters, you got to get out and vote because Pennsylvania will be the difference maker. So it appears as though both of their campaigns agree with that thought. Richard, I also wanted to ask you about polls. People love to talk about polls, right? People love those concrete numbers, but how concrete are they? How accurate are they? We are on election day, just hours away from the polls closing. You know, how much weight should people take in those final polls?
Zero. People should go vote as if the polls don't exist. Um, You know, polling in America is sort of an interesting thing. Years ago, they only polled people who had refrigerators, you know, because they knew what was going on. Then they polled people who only had telephones. So, you know, polling has evolved over the years. And we've seen another massive change, and with a cell phone, with other ways of needing to communicate. The problem with polling today is so many people have come into the process. How do you measure them? How do you measure all these young people who registered to vote for this election? How do you measure Hispanics who have come in and other people? So the polling, I think, can be way off. If we look at polling historically over the last couple of elections, I mean, it's kind of a fascinating thing. They were wrong on, you know, everyone talks about 2016, obviously, where they were dead wrong. Everyone thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. Obviously, she lost. She won the popular vote. And that's the other problem, by the way. I should just stop myself. Kamala Harris is going to win the popular vote. There is very, 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 very little doubt about that. I think most people expect her to. That's not what we're talking about. So when you poll, first of all, these national polls that have her up 1 point are meaningless because she's going to run up massive numbers in New York, New Jersey, Illinois, California. So what? If she wins by 1, she wins. So I think that skews the numbers. So that's an issue. And then when we look at historically, you know, they were wrong in 2020. They thought Biden was going to win easily. He won by, I think, 3%. So there was a bias in that year towards the Democrats that was wrong. And if you look, let's say, at the 2022 midterm elections, there was a bias towards the Republicans. The Democrats did much better. Polling is in trouble, and we have to come up with a system that works a lot more. But this is election day, and on election day, throw out the polls, go vote, you know, do what you think is right. This thing will work its way out tonight or over the next couple of days, but I don't think we could put much credence in them right now. Now,
well, the only poll that really matters, Richard, are the election results. I mean, that is the final poll of the American people, and we will definitely be keeping a close eye. We do need to step away for a 2-minute break, but Richard, I'd love to continue this conversation if you wanted to hang on for our viewers.
Of course.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're going to step away for a 2-minute break. We're going to bring back Richard in as we continue on our election day coverage. Stay with us.